It's shiny. It's awesome. It's cool. It's a piece
Good.
of hardware that I can give for my baby boy.
Porque eu não comi nada antes.
You know,
Não comi nada. Eu vim
absolutely.
treinar.
Hold on, I'm talking, brother. 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 Hold on, I'm talking, brother.
Hello and welcome back to Hold On, I'm Talking, Brother. This is our UFC 263 preview. My name is Joe Greenwood and I'm joined by my regular co-host, Tom Ballum. Tom, how are you?
I'm feeling great, Joe. Great to join you here after dark. A little bit later than usual.
Yeah,
But
we were supposed to record on Wednesday, but obviously life gets in the way of stuff. We are now recording Friday night, 10 o'clock, post-Italy-Turkey European Championships opener, which was a fun enough match for me, satiated my desire for international football. But we're not here for that pansy nonsense. We are here for some down and dirty fighting. And Tom, let me tell you, I am hyped for this card.
Joe, you're completely right to be hyped. As you say, we've had some commitments off the field, to go back to your football reference. But yeah, this card is worthy of a lot of one's attention. And once you sit down and start looking at the fighters on this card, you can't help but start getting excited. So here we are, late night, getting it in there, putting the work in.
Yeah, I mean, actually, all 5 fights, there's something there that I'm interested in. And there's at least one guy in each fight that I'm, like, really interested in. But before we get to UFC 263 itself, let's just talk about the last couple weeks. No point talking about Rosenstruck versus Sakai card. Nothing really there. Ponzinibbio, Baeza was a fun enough fight. Good old scrap. Recommend watching that. But let's talk about, from about 3 weeks ago now, Cody Garbrandt versus Rob Font.
Well, it's nice to jump in on this one, on Font versus Garbrandt. Yeah. Well, because you and I, we had quite different opinions coming out of that fight. I felt, at least. Yeah.
What was your take?
Well, first give me yours. Set up the straw man, rather than let me do it for you, and I will knock it down.
Okay. Well, I remember my main thoughts about it was that Rob Font demolished him pretty much. Like it was not really that close at all, and Garbrandt was frankly a bit of a mess, I thought, in that fight, and was sort of found out, and had this weird, bizarre thing where he thought he was going to catch Rob Font out with the same shot that he hit Assunção with, which quite literally doing the same movement, as if Rob Font's some idiot that's going to be like, well, I have no idea what he's doing there. And yeah, I just thought Rob Font was excellent. Beautiful jab. But Cody just looked a bit lackluster, and I felt like he's been a bit found out in this division. I don't know, how different were our opinions? That was my takeaway from it.
Well, I can agree with a lot of what you said there. There's no question that Rob Font looked excellent and put on, in the end, of a bit of a clinic. But at least my impression after the fight, when we were talking about it, is that you were really down on Garbrandt's performance. You thought he had let himself down, he had been found out, and you were saying he was a bit of a mess, a bit all over the place, ridiculing him, going back to that shot.
I feel like it's a bit harsh. I felt like I was more praising Font more than anything else, but because the problem was I had with the commentary and everything surrounding it was the talk of Cody, rather than talk about the fact that Font shut him down. Like, you could in some ways say he won that 5 rounds to nothing. I personally had it 4 rounds to 1.
I think I did as well.
Yeah.
Wasn't it the first round we gave to Cody?
Yeah, he had a couple takedowns, but he did nothing with them. And to be honest, Rob Font fought the fight that Dominic Cruz said he was going to fight against Cody Garbrandt. Sticking him a move, jabbing him in the face, and denying him those sort of, like, brawling sort of moments that he could sort of, like, latch onto and use his speed.
So I guess this is the area that maybe we've got a bit of a difference of opinion in, because I feel like, what do you want from Cody? If he goes in there and mixes the scrap, then he's, reckless, and he's seen the red mist if he gets clipped. If he fights disciplined and tries to use his speed, tries to mix in takedowns, he's also being criticised for that.
But did he fight discipline, though? Because his coaches kept telling him, throw an uppercut, and he didn't throw an uppercut because Rob Font was dipping and sort of like looking at where Cody was and moving out the way, and like he was there for body shots, and his coaches kept saying throw body shots, throw uppercuts. He didn't do it. It wasn't.
I feel like that's where Font neutralized him. Yes, you're right that Cody. There were a few outs for him, but in Font's tight guard and long jab and constant pressure, great conditioning, and great discipline throughout the fight. I felt like he neutralized Cody's weapons, and I feel like Cody did try to adapt. He did try to take him into different waters. Obviously, yes, trying the takedowns earlier on, and then also trying to engage him in a brawl and use his speed. But actually, Font had outmatched him, and it was a great night for Font. But I didn't think Cody let himself down in that fight.
Who does Cody then who does he fight next then?
Well, there's no getting away from the fact that I don't know what Font was coming into this fight. Was he ranked maybe 10, something like that?
No, I think he was like 6 or something.
Oh, okay.
And Garbrandt was like 3 or 4.
Yeah, I mean, Font wasn't maybe considered as a star in the division or a top-ranked guy, and now, of course, he has to be looked at that way. So in that respect, he's taken a bit of Cody's shine.
Yeah.
But there's lots of matchups for Cody. I don't know. It's a good. Let's remember, he's one of our poster boys for COVID-19.
Yes.
And he fought 5 rounds. He didn't gas. He was lacking. He wasn't as sharp. He wasn't as fast. Certainly a mile away from the Cody Garbrandt we saw against Dominic Cruz.
Yeah.
But he put in 5 rounds, and he didn't get knocked out. Red Mist didn't descend. I'm happy to see him.
For sure, there's definite growth and there's definite improvements to his game. I just felt like Rob Font wasn't getting the praise that he deserved, really, from that performance. That was my main takeaway, and I just feel like he exposed Cody just a little bit. But
he did, right? He
yeah.
Did we make any picks going into that one?
I think we didn't. I don't remember. Oh no, I did. We did. I ran through the card, and I think you picked Garbrandt, if I remember correctly.
I think I picked Garbrandt by KO.
But that's a reasonable pick going into that fight. Realistically, if you go back to it, and then Rob Font, we know he has a nice jab, but it was that good. That was a beautiful performance, and didn't get drawn into a fight that he shouldn't have got drawn into. Anyway, I think we're hanging on to something that's not that.
No. We've covered that one. Great performance from Rob Font. Onwards and upwards. Another killer in the division.
Quick note on Edmund Shabazian versus Jack Hermansson at all from that card?
You're talking about getting found out. I mean, wow.
Yeah, Edmund Shabazian go to the PFL. Yeah, it's not looking good for old Edmund, is it? He's very young. He's very young.
Well, yeah, and because of his age, you have to look at management. You have to look at how the UFC's dealt with him. And he's just not ready, Joe.
No.
He doesn't have it quite yet. And Hermansson put a beating on him in the end.
Hermansson got knee on belly on him, that's something that people who have been doing jiu-jitsu for 2 years get done to them. Do you know what I mean? He looked amateur. He looked amateur on the deck, and against guys like Hermansson, who's a really good grappler. Not the most prolific sort of takedown artist or anything like that, but we saw it against Brunson as well. He just got smashed on the ground, and even on the feet a bit, I felt like Shabazian wasn't quite the guy that I was expecting, really, but hey ho.
Well, it was the first round went well for Shabazian, and I was a bit worried for my other pick going into that, which I believe was a Hermansson decision.
Yeah.
But it was again when you get to the kind of fighters rounds, went to the you find out somebody's actual kind of not their class but their caliber.
The backbone, basically, their grit. If they can dig in. I mean, we saw that last night. I don't know if you saw PFL last night. Or any part of it. Clarissa Shields, making her MMA debut, coming over from boxing, lost the first 2 rounds, was mounted, and was getting beaten up, and she won by a TKO in the 3rd round with ground and pound. She dug it out and won in the 3rd round. She's got that athletic grit and backbone that comes from having that boxing career, and she's just got that mindset to not give up on herself. Whereas Shabazian, he quit. He quit.
Well, once it started going downhill in the second, it rapidly descended into,
I know.
actually
I know
bit of a shambles.
I know it's harsh me saying that he quit, but it did look that way to me.
It was just an absolute beating put on him in the third round. I'm not going to say should have been stopped or anything, but there was no way Shabazian was coming back. And if he's not fighting, then he's quit, hasn't he?
Yes, for sure.
We're talking about a 3-round fight where he's won the first.
You should have the momentum to go on and win the second and third from there. And in reality, that third went a 10-8. And I think that is quite damning of him. Anyway, let's move on to UFC 263. Listeners, let's set this up. Me and Tom will make our picks. I don't know what Tom has picked at all. Tom doesn't know what I've chosen. We'll make our predictions, and we'll be scored points based on those predictions. 1 point if we get the victor of the fight. 2 points if we get the method correct as well. And Tom pulled off the miracle last pay-per-view of getting 9 points out of 10, which is frankly remarkable. I explained this setup and concept to a friend of mine who is just getting into MMA, and he was just like, that doesn't sound that impressive. And then when I broke it down for him, he was just like, actually, that's insane. So congratulations, champ, on your dominant victory last time. I was the Shabazian to your Hermanson.
That is. Well, we were talking about resilience and grit. I personally took a big loss coming into the last card, and it hurt me, Joe, and I have come back. I've been through the PFL. I have returned to the prime time and been anointed. So
fair play.
Yeah. But we both agree. I think you're not a champ until you've defended. So that's what I'm looking to do here.
What are you saying about me from my last time? I wasn't a champ.
That was a subtle insinuation that. No.
I somewhat agree with that. I do think, but then by that rationale, then Robert Whittaker was never a middleweight champion. Then, so I'm gonna just.
Did you just put yourself on the same plane as Robert Whittaker?
I am the Robert Whittaker of predictions. That's all I'm saying. So.
Okay. Joe is, listeners, just in case you're not aware, Joe here is now into his 5th beer, and it's showing.
It's a Friday night, and it's my day off. What can I say? Right.
Cheers to that. Cheers to
that, indeed. Well, as we'll start with Paul Craig and Jamal Hill, and as champion, what do you want to do? Do you want to lead, or do you want me to go first?
No, you can kick off.
I can kick off. All right. Jamal Hill versus Paul Craig. Paul Craig, one of these sort of like UFC fighters who just sort of hangs around in undercards and fight nights and fights on these cards where it's just like UFC Prague and it's Paul Craig versus some bloke. Paul Craig, known for his epic series of fights versus Shogun Rua, where he managed to get a draw against a man who shouldn't have been fighting for the last 10 years. Known mostly for his ground game, which is a bit odd for a British fighter, don't you think?
Yeah, a Scotsman who's known for pulling guard and bizarre. And I'm trying to think who I said. I think Jack Slack, who we've referenced before as another podcast I've listened to in the MMA world.
The best MMA podcast?
I think you've got at the top, Hold On, I'm Talking Brother, and then probably second would be one of the other organizations. We could give it to Jack Slack, yeah.
Jack Slack, yeah.
Very good. If you want a more technical breakdown, then Jack Slack is a great partner to the Hold On, I'm Talking Brother after Dark Edition.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, sorry, keep going.
And he said about Paul Craig that, you see that he's the kind of guy you expect to see, like, kind of eyeing you up at the end of the bar late in some absolute bruiser.
He's very much that.
He looks it, but as you say, actually a bit of a jiu-jitsu specialist. So what a surprise.
Particularly off his back, which is really weird. Like, he throws up a lot of triangle sort of submissions and attacks. But the thing with Paul Craig is that if you look at his record, isn't it the case that he either wins by submission or loses by decision? Is that the case with his record? If I remember correctly.
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah.
He's got. I think he's. Yeah.
So he's got a bit of an odd record. Yeah, Paul Craig, who's facing Jamal Hill. Jamal Hill, not a grappler, a striker. I feel like the UFC look at him as a potential superstar with him. His um, out,
Can you talk us through that?
well, tall, trash talking,
Dark.
dark. Jesus, this is hold on, I'm talking brother after dark. Um, yeah, striker knocks people out. He KO'd Ovin St. Preux in his last fight. I think he's knocked out everyone in the UFC so far, including on the Contender Series. So he is kind of what Dana would like, really, a sort of knockout artist, sort of fighter, stand and bang. And he does land at quite the output, I must say. Paul Craig throws at 2.4 strikes per minute, and he absorbs 2.43. Jamal Hill absorbs 3.15 shots per minute, and he lands at 7.9, which is an
Wow.
that's an extraordinarily high output,
Yeah.
particularly for a light heavyweight.
Yeah, I mean, you referenced the OSP fight for Jamal Hill. That was the first time I saw him,
Yeah.
and I mean, say what you will about OSP. Let's just focus on Hill. But yeah, he really put on a bit of a clinic against OSP and really overwhelmed him with the speed and flow of his punches. So for a light heavyweight, that's you said what 7, nearly 8 strikes per
Yeah,
minute.
that's
That's
very high.
landed. That's quite an
Yeah,
output
and
for a big.
he's throwing about 15, 16, so he's landed at about 50%, which is quite something. And I feel like Paul Craig and Ovin St. Preux are quite a pretty good comparison. Kind of grappler heavy sort of like heavyweights. I think OSP is a slightly more advanced grappler though than Paul Craig. Anyway, I mean to the point where he has a specialized choke, which is basically his own at this stage. But
The one blue.
shall I throw down my prediction?
Yeah, hit me.
Jamal Hill by KO.
The KO.
Yeah,
A KO.
I'm landing the big KO on this one. What are you having?
Well, I mean, so when he TKO'd OSP, Jamal Hill, he didn't actually land a knockout blow. It was just like from strikes, The referee had seen enough, but OSP was still standing. Um, yeah, I've also gone for Jamal Hill, but it's by decision for me.
You think Craig
Uh,
can?
I think he can wrap him up and yeah, stay in there. I haven't seen that huge power from Jamal Hill myself, so that's what's led me to choosing him by decision. I have to say, of course, he hasn't really been tested. If Paul Craig had a bit more of a solid kind of takedown game, or
Yeah,
even slightly more reliable boxing, I think it could be more interesting. Trying to make my prediction, but based on Paul Craig's poor takedown game, I've gone for that.
I completely get that. Jamal Hill, by the way, did suffer with COVID for a while and said how much.
Oh,
Yeah.
have we got another one, another poster boy?
I think. Well, I was worried about this. I mean, he seems all right. I mean, seems like he's okay. He hasn't been coughing up blood or anything like that, and hasn't been to that level. But it will be interesting to see if he can stay in there for that long, like you're talking about with the decision, whether he can do those 15 minutes in there because of COVID. But we'll just have to wait and see. But talking about one grappler, Paul Craig, let's talk about the next level of grappler of Damian Maia versus Bilal. What's his name? The answer?
Remember the name.
Remember the name. That was it. Not. Yeah. Remember.
20% skill, 100% power of will.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Something like that. Isn't it?
Yeah. The Wayne Rooney of the UFC, Bilal Muhammad, facing Damian Maia. What might be his retirement bout? Which would be
43 now, Damien.
yeah. Should we just talk about Damian Maia quickly? About us, I think we're both big fans, aren't we?
How could you not be? How could you not be? The guy has really carried the flag for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And yeah, he's always been completely humble. He's represented all the things we like to see in a martial artist, and he's still doing it to this day. He's a
Yeah.
great watch.
2 UFC title opportunities, one against Tyron Woodley, where he managed to shut Maia out, and then the bizarre Anderson Silva fight at UFC 112, if I remember correctly, in Abu Dhabi, where Silva just
Didn't engage.
did not engage.
Dana wasn't happy, if I remember.
No, he was very angry to the point where he booked him against Chael Sonnen for the first time. Which will be coming up later. I'm sure you can all figure out what fight I'm thinking about when referencing that. But yeah, Damian Maia versus Bilal Muhammad. I mean, what do you think of Bilal Muhammad then after his last fight with Leon Edwards? First of all, do you think he should have had the rematch with Edwards over the Damian Maia fight?
I got to say, I love this matchmaking from the UFC, putting them on the same card again. Allowing the space for it to brew and bubble up, and yeah, that's great. No, I don't think he was worthy of a rematch, especially considering Edwards is he's got the most wins at welterweight. He's well due a shot at the belt if he can just be a bit more active and if the cards fall his way a little bit. And Muhammad is not in that position. He's ranked 12, and he was getting beaten by Edwards.
Yes.
So, no. But go out there, win some fights. Let's see. It's in there. It's all building up for them to meet again.
Yeah.
No need to book it straight away.
Yeah, I think. What's Muhammad's way of beating Damian Maia then? Do you think? Because obviously it's not going to be on the ground. Really.
Well, this is the thing, he's had a bit of a blueprint shown to him. So you referenced the Tyron Woodley fight, where Woodley was very, very cautious, having watched what happened to the likes of Gunnar Nelson, who got a bit too close and a bit too comfortable, and Damien, he swarmed on him like a snake, and he was just transitioning
Ben Askren
like butter. And of course, Askren met the same fate, who had such confidence in his wrestling. But we have had the likes of Gilbert Burns, just running through Maia.
Yeah, Colby Covington.
Exactly.
Yeah, although Covington got hit a lot more than Woodley did, and then you had Kamaru Usman, who, by the way, Maia had his back in the first round, and the referee broke it up. I mean, my word, history could have been so much different if that had not happened. And I rewatched that recently. That was an insane thing to do. Like, watching it back, it's like, how on earth was that separated? And
well,
yeah.
But then I think I am right in saying that Masvidal and Maia had an interesting matchup where basically Maia had Masvidal's back on the feet for the whole fight, more or less, or at least for a couple of rounds.
It was the first round, and Masvidal just had hand-on-hand fighting, was very patient. Second round had a little bit of that, but it was more on the feet, and then the third round, Masvidal won. This is a very typical Damian Maia sort of fight, by the way. Win the first 2 rounds, be basically latched onto someone's back, and then spend the third round just circling the octagon, avoiding a power shot. So, I don't know.
What?
Yeah, go on.
Well, I was just going to say, watching that Masvidal fight, which really stinks because it was such a curious display.
It was a very odd fight, yeah.
It was and I felt like Masvidal was a little bit hard done by, with the result.
Yeah.
So yeah, whilst I would say you could never take a guy off someone's back, the referee can't step in because it's such a dangerous position. I mean, it wasn't a dangerous position for Masvidal to have Maia on his back. It wasn't. Masvidal never looked like he was getting submitted to me.
Yeah, and he was almost shrugging his shoulders at certain points, wasn't he? Because what do you want me to do right now? It's like, I'm not going to go to the ground. I'm not going to fall on my back and try and work to into his guard from there, because that'd be again an insane thing to do. It's just, do you think Bilal Muhammad's wrestling is strong enough to prevent a Damian Maia shot? Because Damian Maia is going to walk forward and he's going to fire takedowns at him relentlessly. They may not be the best takedowns, but if he can clasp his hands together and that boa constrictor can get his little grip on you, it's going to be a long 5 minutes in that cage. Do you think Bilal Muhammad can do that?
Joe, it's Muhammad by decision.
Tom, I've got Damian Maia by decision.
Alrighty.
Can you not imagine Damian Maia on Bilal Muhammad's back and Muhammad's just fighting the hands and whatever else, and that's how Maia wins 2 rounds?
I don't see it playing out like that, no.
Really?
I feel like Muhammad is another in the pressure wrestler mold that has, Maia's been getting blown away, actually.
Yeah, I mean, Muhammad, he doesn't have knockout power, I don't think. No. He doesn't quite have that, but he does land at a fairly high rate, nearly at 5 strikes per minute. And of course, Damian Maia, not much for a striker. I think he's below 2 strikes per minute. So it's, again, he will probably be outstruck. But the thing is, for Muhammad in this fight, he can't really throw kicks in this fight. It's all going to be hand fighting, sprawling, keeping his hands sort of like to keep Maia away and just circling in the first couple rounds before he can maybe start putting it on him later in the fight. I was just envisioning it the other day, and I just want it to happen. I like Bilal Muhammad, but I want Damian Maia to win this fight, and I want him to win this. Ideally by submission, but I don't know if he'll be able to do that. I'm going to have, as I said, Damian Maia by decision.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess the only thing I'd say about Bilal Muhammad is his losses in the UFC, or at least his most recent ones, are to strikers, Jeff Neal and Vicente Luque. He's not really had trouble
with grapplers. No. I agree with that. And also, yeah, Damian Maia doesn't quite have the ferocity of a Vicente Luque when it comes to his striking. So, no. Yeah, that's a fair enough opinion. I think it's more my heart is leading that decision from me, and I'm a little bit disappointed you haven't followed me down that road of nostalgia.
All business here, Joe. I've got a title to defend.
Yes. Speaking of nostalgia, Nate Diaz has been awoken from the grave and has been dragged out to face Leon Edwards, which is what we were supposed to have 4 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. They've put it on this card. Still 5 rounds.
Interesting. Very interesting.
I'm fine with that, trust me.
Yep.
I'm very much okay with that. Against Leon Rocky Edwards, who's maybe the most unlucky fighter during the COVID pandemic, a man who should have faced Tyron Woodley up until lockdown happened in the UK and denied him that. Woodley then went on to face Burns, who dismantled Woodley, overpowered him, got a title shot, who then faced Covington, was overpowered by him, who is now getting the next title shot against Usman. And Edwards just had to sit there and watch.
Well, and then he also endured the Hamzat
nonsense
saga.
Yeah. Losing his ranking, then getting reinstated in the rankings, the Bilal Muhammad eye poke. It's been a rough go.
Calamitous.
Yeah, it's been a rough go for Leon. It's been a rough go for Leon.
But this is, he's won a bit of a prize in getting Diaz here after 3 years. Undoubtedly a draw, Nate Diaz, especially after the McGregor fights.
The Masvidal fight. He's definitely a draw. I genuinely don't know why he's taking this fight though.
Nate. No.
Nate. There's
nothing in it for Nate.
There's nothing there. Can I just throw my prediction down now, by the way?
Well, I think you've already given it to us. Go on.
Leon Edwards by knockout.
Yeah, I've got the same. Well, I've got TKO, but yeah.
KO, TKO.
By stoppage. Yeah.
I think Edwards is the first legitimate welterweight Diaz is going to face in quite a while. Masvidal was a 155er. Obviously, he is a welterweight now. McGregor was at welterweight, not really a welterweight. Anthony Pettis, lightweight, fighting at welterweight. There is not a chance in hell Leon Edwards would ever make the lightweight weight limit.
The great irony here, of course, is that Diaz is the archetype of a kind of prize fighter that picks fun matchups and gets big paydays, but he's not. For those who know, he's not really a contender. He's not really in the frame to fight for a belt.
He's a cult. He's a cult.
He is, and he should fight other characters in that mold, like Conor McGregor has perhaps become, or was on the verge of becoming, and like Masvidal. Um, so the great irony is he's fighting the opposite of that, which is a guy who's won decisions but very quietly and diligently fought his way to become, as I say, most wins at welterweight,
Yeah.
and legitimate top contender
Yeah.
in
Well,
his division.
and also, the thing about Leon is that his style is so modern. It's such a modern style of fighting, of like being really good in all elements of it, but particularly in like half positions, of having like one underhook and then sort of like using one hand to sort of like control the rest of the body, firing off shots. Really good at pressure fighting, of like, he can fight in like a point style or whatever else. But I mean, the image that I'm seeing when I think of this fight is Nate Diaz walks in with that sort of long boxing style. Edwards clinches up and throws like 4 elbows and busts him open within the first round, and blood just pouring everywhere. I mean, obviously, I want Edwards to win. I like Leon Edwards. I think his story is fascinating. Really, I have such empathy for him with his family background and the story of his father being killed and all that. And it's, he's a very likable guy. And really, like, like with like Masvidal talking about like being like, I'm from the streets or whatever else. And, all these fighters that talk about, Leon Edwards is quite literally from the streets sort of fighter, but he just fights in this sort of like incredibly technical way that is just not built for a Nate Diaz performance. Like Diaz, that lead leg is going to get beaten up early.
Well, it would be a huge upset and actually quite farcical if Diaz were to find a way to win this fight, and it would really undermine a lot about what we know about the sport.
Yeah, it would. It would. I mean, obviously, Diaz could win. He could.
How would that happen? Let's just say that scenario.
He's going to have to use his cardio, try and work.
We have seen Edwards fade a little bit
a
towards the end of fights.
Yeah, but sure. But I think Edwards is going to take that Masvidal approach of beating Diaz to the body and just completely just sort of like try and work at his cardio. And basically,
right. But we're saying if he was going to win, though, we're going to take a pro Diaz look. We'd say that Diaz will be able to survive, avoid those body shots, and then come on strong 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah,
and just outstrike him.
Yeah, around him. That's what you're hoping for. But with that, you're going to need your lead leg. You're going to need to not have your eyebrows completely slashed away. And you're going to need all your senses available to you, because Edwards is a very smart fighter. He's when he wants to be as a brutal fighter. You saw it a little bit in that Muhammad fight. Like, he did seem to be taking out a year of frustration out on Muhammad. And Muhammad, I know that eye poke was brutal, but I almost feel like that was the nice way out of that fight for him against Edwards.
Yeah,
Edwards is big, by the way. When they were stood next to each other at the press conference, he did look a lot bigger than him, I felt like. But
I mean, Edwards needs to go in and finish Diaz, make a statement, and
he's going to get booed as well. He's going to get booed as well, which I think will add to it.
I would be disappointed if Edwards kind of outclasses him tactically and technically, but isn't able to land a killer blow and beats him over 5 rounds. I don't think that really cuts the mustard here.
Do you think Nate is going to introduce anything new to his game? No. I agree. So we both have Leon Edwards by knockout for this fight, which I'm a little bit surprised actually that you went down that road, but okay.
All right. Tell me. What was your inkling?
I was thinking you were going to go by decision, just based on record, based on Diaz's chin, based on.
It's the scar tissue, Joe, isn't it? It's like we've already seen what happened with Masvidal and Diaz, and obviously Diaz doesn't really get knocked out, so hence the TKO over the KO.
Yeah, I think Edwards can overwhelm him to the point where he can TKO him. I think he can also do it fairly early as well. I'm thinking in my mind maybe round 2. It could be that level of beatdown for him.
I really hope Edwards comes out with some ferocity and shows how good he is.
Yes,
Uses the platform he's been given.
Yes, I very much agree. Right, the first of two rematches, the first of two title fights, and a rematch of what I think was both of our number 2 fight of the year for last year. Deivison Figueiredo versus Brandon Funko Pop Moreno. I don't know if you saw the embedded. I did chuckle a bit at Brandon Moreno's Funko Pop collection that he has going. You are a grown man. What the fuck is wrong with you? No offense to him. Whatever. Do you feel like this is not getting the respect it deserves yet again?
Yes. I mean, but the UFC have kind of designed it that way. It's not the main event, and you've got two non-native speakers. It's the flyweights. These guys need their own main event headlining another card, don't they?
I guess so. Although, based on that press conference, though, Brandon Moreno is very popular. I mean, he is in Arizona. A lot of Spanish-speaking people there. He is Mexican. They were cheering for him and booing Figueiredo, who didn't seem to like it. I don't know if you've seen any of the press conference.
Unfortunately, I haven't been able to watch it. No.
Oh, treat yourself. Fantastic.
It was a good one.
It was so good. Vettori was insane. He was literally like foaming at the mouth. Like, he looked so angry, and like it was a really bizarre press conference, and it was like, yeah, whatever. But Moreno was cheered. Everything he said was cheered, and everything Figueiredo said was booed. Figueiredo has said in this fight that he is going to pick his shots a bit more in this fight. And having re-watched that last Moreno fight, Figueiredo, I don't know if you've watched it recently, Figueiredo in that first round literally just walks in and is just like, right, I'm going to knock this fucker out. That's that. And then proceeds to not knock him out and then realise, oh shit, I barely have enough gas here to get through 5 rounds. What am I going to do? I don't know if you remember that fight, how you scored it the first time?
Unfortunately, I don't. This is a big weakness of mine. I've been covering this like Kamaru Usman's knees. The wrestler who doesn't shoot for takedowns, that is me and my memory of how we've scored the fights. We go through it in a lot of detail. We're professionals here at Hold On, I'm Talking Brother, but no, Joe, it's something I was hoping you'd break down for us here. We picked Figueiredo. We picked
Figueiredo, but in watching it, we both had it 3-2, and we both had the low groin shot, obviously making it a draw, which was the end result, obviously.
And we agreed in that low groin shot.
Yeah.
Point.
Yeah. We both agreed on that. Do you, having seen Figueiredo, by the way, that first fight they had fought the previous pay-per-view, had won their fights, and then they were like, well, we need a main event for the next one. Will you come back?
That's right.
I felt like probably they weren't at their best for that, the pair of them, having done 2 weight cuts to get down to make weight. Figueiredo, by the way, weighed in last out of every single fighter on the card today and did not look good on the scales. He made weight. Figueiredo is very big for the division, though. What do you see as Brandon Moreno's way of winning this fight, basically?
Well, what I would say is that Figueiredo, in the first fight, you always felt like he was the man who had the tools, but Moreno was able to scrap and keep absorbing unbelievable punishment and just stay in there. And I think it's going to be more of the same. Like, Figueiredo still has the same advantages over Moreno.
Yeah.
Those haven't gone away. All right, we've talked about him being a bigger man, and not just that, but a very heavy hitter. I do remember that going into that first fight, Figueiredo had the second most knockdowns per shot in the UFC after Francis Ngannou.
Which is insane.
An incredible statistic.
Insane.
Incredible statistic.
Insane.
Now, that statistic may no longer hold after that fight, but he still has that knockout power. And not just that, but he's a very technically able striker, and he can pick his shots. The thing is that Moreno doesn't appear to be going anywhere.
No.
He's really shown that he can go through the fire. He's full of grit, and perhaps if he can up that cardio game that bit more, get Figueiredo working that bit harder, try to rile him up, try to draw some power out of him, then I think there is perhaps room there for Moreno to take the lead later on in the fight.
I agree somewhat. I think Moreno's chin is unbelievable. I think his defensive style as well. He really rolls with shots. Like if he gets hit, he rolls with the shot, so it doesn't fully land through him. And he is really, really good at that. He's got, again, superb cardio, and also he's got really good takedowns as well. In that first fight, he took down Figueiredo 4 times. The first 3 happened in the first 3 rounds, and each takedown lasted 30 seconds. In the 4th round, his takedown lasted 90 seconds. He got a 90-second takedown later in the fight against Figueiredo. So he does have that ability to do that. But Figueiredo's scrambling ability is, superb, as is nearly every fighter in the flyweight division. So, having said all that, Figueiredo by KO.
By KO. Mm-hmm. Figueiredo by KO. Joe, I've gone for decision. Because I felt like, yes, Figueiredo
by decision. Figueiredo by decision. Yes.
Yeah. Because also Figueiredo ultimately, even though he was taken to some deep waters himself, he still retained that excellence that we've seen.
Yeah.
So there's no way I can pick anyone but Figueiredo.
Yeah, I think.
And as you say, if it wasn't for the illegal strike, he would have won that first fight.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Personally, I think Figueiredo is going to come in knowing what Moreno has for him. And I think he's not going to throw the absolute kitchen sink at him straight away. And I think he's going to wait for his shots. And Figueiredo, who waits for his shots, is a guy who I think is a lot more dangerous than the Figueiredo who just walks people down. I think when you saw Figueiredo versus Benavidez, the second time when that was a murder that happened there. He did walk him down, but he did pick his shots as well. He wasn't just like winging wild shots at him, which is what he was doing against Moreno. And I expect to see that again. I expect to see a somewhat healthier Figueiredo as well, with a full camp.
Despite the weight cut yesterday.
Despite the weight cut, I think he'll have a better preparation for him. I just think this is just a big guy for that division, who probably should be fighting at bantamweight, but that's neither here nor there. But I'm going to go with Figueiredo by KO. I think he can knock this guy out. As we've seen before, I rewatched the Pantoja fight that he had, and some of those elbows, man, he almost decapitated that man. It was brutal performance from Figueiredo, and I think he can do that in a way that Moreno can't. I like Brandon Moreno, but he just doesn't have enough tools to beat Figueiredo.
Yeah, Moreno is that guy. You turn up for a five-a-side game, and you're kind of sizing up the opposition, and you don't make much of him, but he's that bastard that just never goes away. He's that guy that keeps, And first you try to just explode, and you try to put a bit of weight on them, and then you realize, shit, that's not working.
Yeah.
And then you start passing around them. Eventually, you just accept that. All right, he's not going anywhere. I'm gonna have to show my quality rather than just try to just overwhelm him.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I totally agree. I can totally agree. Right. Main event time. Second rematch. Second title shot. Middleweight strap on the line. Israel Adesanya versus Marvin Vettori. Now, listeners, let me tell you this. Me and Tom, for the last 3 years, have been very divided. Now, let me tell you, I was always Team Adesanya. And Tom has always been Team Marvin Vettori. Is that
Well,
is
by
that or is
default.
that not correct?
Well, I have to make some revisions, but it's largely fair. Um, Adesanya, obviously, very exciting from the moment he came into the UFC. But Vettori, it was a matchup he had very early on, and Vettori definitely left some questions out there. And I took that fight and I thought, I can't board the train yet. I cannot. It's steaming away, but I wasn't ready to get on. Since then, guys, I've chased the train down and I'm on it. I'm there. I'm a little bit behind Joe, who's got his head right up the kind of arse of the train.
And let me tell you,
Yeah.
it tastes delicious. So it is worth it. It's worth it.
I do get a morsel myself here and there, and of course his show against Whitaker, against Brunson, against Tavares, against Gastelum. Since then, Adesanya has been pretty immaculate, and yeah, he's a superstar. He's a superstar. Vettori, meanwhile, has gone from strength to strength himself.
Yes.
He's proved that he wasn't. We also have to say, at that time, Vettori was an unranked no mark when he caused Adesanya all those problems.
Yeah.
Which is also part of why I had those reservations. But Vettori has shown his quality. So it was either a question that Vettori wasn't that good and maybe Adesanya wasn't that good, or actually both those guys were going to go on to be big names in the division. And that has proven to be the case. Because we've now got champion versus the third man in the division, both coming off big win streaks, and definitely a great rematch.
Well,
in the absence of Robert Whittaker.
Yeah, I mean, Robert Whittaker should be in the title fight against Adesanya.
Yes, unequivocally agree.
Yeah, that it's just no doubt about it. But obviously, he couldn't make this. Vettori could. My main issue with picking Vettori for this fight is what are his paths to victory? He has a left hand. He has a left hand.
The third round of his fight played out over 5. The third round of his fight in the first fight with Adesanya.
Yeah.
Where he was able to neutralize him on the ground, kept him down, took him down twice, won the round.
Did he really do that?
Like
he didn't do that much on the ground, though.
No, it's true. But he controlled him, landed something.
Sure.
It's enough.
Do you think that's enough to give him confidence of winning, though? I guess. I mean, he needs something to hold on to.
I don't think he would look at the first and second round and think to himself, "Wow, I can't hang with this guy. I'm in desperate trouble unless I can take him down." I don't think Vettori would have left that fight feeling that at all. I'd say he would look at it and say, "Wow, I've just been in there with one of the most dynamic strikers the sport's ever seen," and it was a split decision victory for him.
Okay,
bring it on. I'm a few years older.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he can take big confidence from that first fight.
I for sure, he's definitely taking confidence from it, but his ways to victory are, I think, incredibly limited. It is taking Adesanya down. He will be fighting in the bigger cage, unlike the Jan Blachowicz fight, where it was the smaller cage and Jan Blachowicz outweighed Adesanya by about 30 pounds.
And outstruck him anyway. So
exactly.
Didn't prove necessary.
He didn't outfeint him. That's the only downside for Jan in that fight. But yeah, he did outstrike him because obviously he could walk through his shots. His strikes weren't going to affect him in the way that it would against a middleweight.
But did Vettori take that kind of damage? Did Vettori eat big shots and think, hold on a sec, this guy's, I can't walk through this? I don't think he did.
No, but Adesanya isn't a guy who just throws big shots. His strikes come from his accuracy, not from the power. Like that is always what his striking has been. It's been an accumulation of shots, And as shown by that Derek Brunson fight, if you just walk in and try and take him down, you're going to get kneed in the head. And that was something that came in his kickboxing as well. Like he would knee people, knee straight up the middle, sort of deny people this sort of space to like close distance. That's what you had to do in
And
kickboxing. That's what you
yet,
have to do in MMA as
and
well.
yet, after just 3 rounds of fighting with a young Marvin, inexperienced, poor Italian, no tradition of the sport in his country, he was unable to do that to Vettori. And Vettori, unless I'm mistaken, he hasn't been finished, has he?
No.
No.
So
As in the words of, was it Chiesa or Feller? He's got that, or Felder. He's got that big old Italian melon, and he can just tank as many shots as he needs to on the way in.
can he though? Can he
Um,
across 5 rounds? That's hard. That's a lot. That's a
I mean,
lot to be taking.
the question here, the question is, are we looking at a middleweight who's actually kind of the size of Jan Blachowicz,
No.
with
This is a guy who used to fight at welterweight.
I feel like Vettori will not be too worried about being finished by Adesanya. I mean, I'm not saying that can't happen. By no means am I saying that. But I'm saying that in planning for this fight, I would feel like a guy like Marvin Vettori would take huge confidence, both from his first fight and from the fight with Israel's fight with Jan Blachowicz.
Yeah.
Where, let's be honest, you or I, we weren't picking Blachowicz going into that. Blachowicz beat him always up.
No, I felt
beat
like
him on the feet, beat him on the ground.
I felt like the Blachowicz fight was a lot closer than people gave it credit for before and after the fight.
It was
as well.
close.
It was very close. It was very close. Like I had it 3 rounds.
Yeah,
to
it
two.
was, yeah.
I had it 3 rounds to 2 for Jan. I think you had the same as well. It's for sure. It could
I'll have to trust you on that.
Yeah. No. Yes. Yeah. My encyclopedic knowledge of our picks is second to none. It's definitely something I'm glad I hold on to. But
there must be some listeners out there, Joe, who are going to rival you one day.
Well, thankfully they'll have a library, a future library, not to be lost, of our what will be undoubtedly golden predictions.
An exclusive After Dark edition, perhaps once off. Who was there? We'll have a reunion, I'm sure.
Yeah. Can I throw down my prediction?
Yes.
Or do you want to go? Or what do you want to go first?
Well, what do you think I've gone for?
I think you've gone for Vettori by decision.
I've gone for Adesanya by decision.
I've gone for Adesanya by knockout.
Oof.
I think he's going to knock him out. I think he's going to knock him out.
That train is steaming.
I think he's going to go into this fight wanting to leave a mark after that Jan Blachowicz fight, and I think he's going to want to show this division who's the boss, basically. And frankly, I don't think Vettori is on his level. I think since they last fought, I've not seen enough from Vettori to make me think he's on his level. He beat Kevin Holland. He took him down 11 times, which doubled his overall UFC takedown amount. He went into that fight having completed 11 takedowns across all his fights. He completed 11 in that entire fight. He beat Jack Hermanson, which I do credit as a very good victory. But Jack Hermanson is a guy who's happy to work off of his back, so I don't take too much from that. Whereas Adesanya shut down Paulo Costa. Paulo Costa's game was very clear, and he shut it down entirely. Yoel Romero, who was a wrestler, couldn't take him down. Derek Brunson, who was a wrestler, couldn't take him down. Robert Whittaker, who was a wrestler, couldn't take him down. I just do not see how Vettori, with his wrestling, will be able to take Adesanya down enough to win a decision in this fight. And frankly, I think Adesanya has leveled up in a way that I don't think Vettori has. I think his striking is too complex for Vettori, who his own striking has improved immensely, but not to the level where I think it's going to be able to trouble Adesanya. As much as I want this to be a barn burner fight, I can actually see this being a bit of a shutout, and I'm going to go with Adesanya by knockout. That is my big spiel on this fight.
Mic drop.
I just don't think. I think the only competitor who can. There are two competitors in middleweight division that I think can beat Adesanya legitimately. Well, one of them is Robert Whittaker because I think he can actually go toe to toe with him. And the other one, and I know you're going to think, Joe, you're insane for saying this, but I think it's going to be Darren Till. In the same way. Hold on. In the same way.
Joe, you're on tilt after that loss last time out.
On the same way that Yoel Romero shut down his fight with Adesanya, I think Till in a striking, tit for tat striking fight could potentially shut Adesanya's striking down, and that they could almost neutralize each other. Because they're both counter strikers, and I think it could end up being a stalemate, and they're actually quite a boring fight. And then he could sneak a decision that way.
We've seen a striking matchup between Till and Whittaker.
Whittaker's more aggressive than Adesanya.
He is, yeah, he is, absolutely. But we've also seen Whittaker with that same aggression get, schooled by Israel. So. Yeah, well, we'll see. Hopefully, we'll see one of those fights at least, maybe two, in the future. Here, I think you're still a little bit cold on Vettori. I think you're underestimating him in a quite a major way. Like, the guy has shown great, full, kind of well-rounded game, cardio, wrestling, striking, also his ability to take strikes and to. Yeah, I guess you could say he weathered some adversity as well in the first Israel fight, where it wasn't really working those first two rounds. That being said, Israel, as you say, his record since then is incredible.
Yeah,
absolutely amazing. He did absolutely school both Whittaker and Brunson. Although I think Vettori does pose slightly different challenges to both of them. He doesn't have that blitz of Whittaker, which Whittaker's so reliant upon, and leaves him vulnerable to the counter. And Brunson obviously came in. I mean,
like a charging bull.
he must wake up every night thinking, "Oh God," just remembering those, not even disguising those shots.
No.
And, he just got made to look like a buffoon.
Yeah.
Vettori certainly didn't leave his fight with Israel looking like a buffoon. He lost the fight 2-1, in my opinion, but unanswered questions, and he has improved and beaten some solid names in doing so.
Fair enough. I think.
And on that note, I'll underline Adesanya by decision.
Right. Let's just quickly go through our picks again.
Yep.
So Paul Craig versus Jamal Hill. I've gone for Hill by KO.
Whereas I picked a decision for Hill.
Damian Maia versus Bilal Muhammad. I've gone for Maia by decision. You've gone for
Bilal by decision.
So I think that's our only split in terms of who we think will win the fight. Edwards Diaz.
Yeah,
Edwards Diaz. Yeah, Edwards Diaz is KO. We both
Has
picked
to
that.
be.
Yeah.
Has to be. Yep.
Figueiredo versus Moreno. You've gone for what exactly?
A decision for Figgy.
And I've gone for a knockout. And Adesanya versus Vettori, as we've just said, I've gone for Adesanya by knockout, and you've gone for decision. We're actually quite divergent here, to be honest. This is it's quite surprising.
Compared to our norm, we are. Yeah, I feel like you've been quite bold, and I commend you on that boldness. I've definitely gone quite conservative.
To dare is to do. That's all I'm going to use the Tottenham motto, the football team I used to support. To dare is to do, and I don't know. I'm just feeling some knockouts in the air. Watch now. By the way, all of them will be decisions except for Damian Maia, who will knock out Bilal Muhammad. But that's the game we play, isn't it?
I think you'd get some pretty decent odds on that. The only KO in this being a Maia over Muhammad.
I have indeed looked up the odds. I believe the odds were, if I saw correctly, I think it was like 18-1 on Damian Maia winning by knockout. So, yeah.
Were you seduced by that number?
Well, I did stick £5 on Turkey to win the European Championships at 50-1, which I'm somewhat regretting now.
Okay.
So, anyway, onwards and upwards. Tom, is there anything else we need to talk about on this? Oh, undercard. Jesus Christ, sorry, I got way too excited there.
This is couple of additions now for the hardcore listeners. This is the Patreon content.
Yes. Drew Dober versus Brad Riddell. My word. Very excited for that. Very excited for that. What are you feeling? What are you feeling for that fight?
Well, that's definitely the one that jumps off the page. My notes on the prelims are pretty limited, but I'll read them to you.
Go for it.
So, Dober versus Riddell, and then we've got Anderson Stewart, Eric Anders versus Darren Stewart, and Evloev and Dawodu.
Yes.
So I just, quick take. I've got Dober versus Riddell. This is the rankings face-off. So who's going to take that, spot 15? That's a follow-up to what we've been talking about in the past on the pod.
Isn't Drew Dober ranked 14th and Riddell ranked 15th?
This has happened, but I feel like the loser here drops out of the rankings.
Fair enough. I agree with that. I think maybe the winner gets to go to 11, maybe? Don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's like bubbling away. A win for either of the guys doesn't move them that much, but keeps them in the discussion and pushes them onwards and upwards.
Yeah.
If we were going to apply that kind of rankings methodology that we talked about in the past, we would want to see, either of the winners fighting up and the loser fighting down. And I think that would be appropriate in this case.
Yeah, for sure. Eric Anders versus Darren Stewart. Do you have anything to say about this fight?
I've labelled this one the Jabron face-off.
I was literally thinking in my head, I wonder if the word jabroni is going to come up here.
Well, Darren Stewart is in danger of falling into jabroni status. I don't think he's quite there yet, but a loss to Eric Anders would seal it, and it would be irredeemable from
the last time they fought, it ended in a DQ no contest because of an illegal knee from Eric Anders, which was happening the same week, basically, as the Jan Sterling one. And really, in that fight, Darren Stewart was not doing well against Eric Anders, so if that happens again, it's not looking good for old Darren, I'm afraid. I like Darren Stewart, by the way. My type of fighter.
Well, we've got a bit of English bias maybe going on as well.
Of course.
I'd like to see him do well. But he's in the danger zone.
Yeah, also just to talk very, very quickly on the prelims as well, we've got potentially Valentina Shevchenko's next opponent, Lauren Murphy versus Joanne Calderwood. Just basically who's going to be the next contender by the looks of it. Joanne Calderwood had the title shot and threw it away against Jennifer Maia for some unknown reason. And Lauren Murphy seems to be on the run to getting that title shot. That's all I've got of that. You're not much of a women's flyweight fan.
Do you want to know what I've labelled this one?
Well, go on.
Women's face-off.
And what was the last one you've got?
So Evloev and Dawodu, which is a prospect face-off. That one.
Yes,
Two
indeed.
guys, big records, and some very good displays behind them. Dawodu with that mean mug of his. I feel like that could be iconic one day.
Yes.
He always looks. You know the one I mean?
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, he's very frowny. He's very frowny, isn't he? I like him.
Almost cartoonishly.
Yes.
The boy can fight, Joe. The boy can fight.
What about Evloev? Have we got much on Evloev?
I've seen less of him, I have to say, but he seems to be the one that's got the bigger heat behind him coming in.
Yeah, undefeated, isn't he? He's a bit of a... Is he a bit of a knockout artist, if I remember correctly? No, he wins by mostly... He's only won by decision in the UFC. I take that back. But when he was fighting... when he was
premonition?
Yeah, well, when he was fighting outside the UFC, when he was fighting the No Wiki Wonders in M1, I think he only had 3 decisions, sorry. So yeah, I think maybe in the UFC the caliber at featherweight has been done for him. But Dawodu is a real test. If you can get past Dawodu, I think you're. I mean, Dawodu's only lost once, I think. Something like that.
Yeah, that's right. That was in his first fight in the UFC.
Fair enough.
But he's 5-0 since then, including, interestingly, 3 split decision wins.
Wow, it's like a reverse Masvidal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm down for that. Who else we got? We got a bit of Chase Hooper on the early prelims. Carlos Felipe. He was the guy who fought that Justin Taffa, big Brazilian guy. They had a big old heavyweight, slop fest back in January. Really recommend that fight. Basically stood there like 2 boxers with their elbows against each other and started throwing to the body. So would recommend that if you want to have the good old slop fest. And then Matt Frivola against Terence McKinney. I like Matt Frivola.
Yeah, Jed, this card is stacked. We could see a lot of these fighters. You'd expect to see Frivola at least make the prelims. A lot of name recognition, and the guys on the prelims, they could be on main events. They could definitely. Some of them could even maybe get to the point they could headline a fight night or co-main at least. So
yeah, Riddell's the one that I sort of like stands out the most to me, most because of that Adesanya link, probably.
Are you picking him here in a striking matchup with Dover?
Oh, I don't know. The thing with Riddell is that like he's one of these guys that you. I mean, I've really enjoyed his UFC fights so far, but he's a bit of a gym legend. I feel like one of these guys where you hear the stories about him, where it's just like, knocking out this guy and had these brutal wars in the gym and whatever else. And he is, by the way, Volkanovski's striking coach. He is the guy who basically created Volkanovski's striking style, which got him to a featherweight title. So if he can do that at lightweight, I mean, fucking hell, that'd be quite something. I feel like he's a little bit long in the tooth, though. Oh no, he's only 30. Oh, I take that back. I thought he was a lot older.
The beers are stacking up, Joe. I feel like they're weighing on your performance here.
I know. I for some reason I thought like Riddell had he had quite a long kickboxing career though, didn't he? Like I feel like that was, or have I completely made that up as well? No. He had quite an fairly extensive kickboxing career. Quite a lot of losses in that career though. So. Yeah. Maybe.
I mean, Dover's losses have been to wrestlers. He's really put in some big performances when he's been given the chance to.
Yeah.
And Riddell is likely to give him the chance. So very excited to see how these two square off.
Yes, very, very much so. Anything else that needs to be brought up, really? Not really, I don't think so. All I can say, listeners, is, by the way, slight apology for the sound quality on Tom's end. He is currently in Iceland, boozing it up with some local businessmen. So just nipped off for an hour or so to record this with us. But I'll let you get back to I'll let you get back to your conference, Tom. I shouldn't keep you for much longer.
He says as he takes a big swig and yells at Kirsten to bring dinner up.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
Come on. I'm not fucking De Niro and Raging Bull, for fuck's sake. Jesus Christ.
No,
I'm not having that.
I have to say, yes. Sorry for the delay in the podcast and also the audio issues, but I hope there's some interesting content there for those loyal fans.
Yes, indeed.
Who have got this far. If you have got this far, drop Joe or I a message and we will send the customary payment as expected.
Yes.
Might even double it this week.
Yes, indeed. Tom, I will speak to you next week where we will talk about this card and talk about what is next for each fighter. What will potentially be next for each fighter and anything that comes out from that. And maybe a slight preview of the next card, which will be McGregor Poirier 3. Oh my days. Cannot wait.
I look forward to reviewing this next week with you then, Joe. And
we'll have a good one.
Yeah.
This is going to be a good card.
Yeah.
This is going to be a good card.
I haven't planned my celebrations. Yeah, we're finished. We're finished.
I'll let you go, Tom. And listeners, we will speak to you next week. Thank you for listening to Hold On, I'm Talking Brother. Thank you, Tom, for joining me. Always a pleasure, never a chore from my end. And listeners, we'll speak to you next week. Goodbye.
Bye bye.